Welcome to episode 53 of Full Throttle, the Presidio Group's automotive industry podcast. I'm your host, Jason Stein, Managing Director at Presidio.
There's great ways to leverage AI. There's great ways to leverage technology. Again, I go back to, I think, and how a dealership in a retail environment does that is going to be really interesting. Can you do it in a way that truly is efficient? And can you do it in a way that really does leverage, technology to help you make better decisions and be more efficient, more profitable? But all the pressures, all the headwinds that we continue to face, I don't think any of those are going away. I think dealers are wildly adaptable creatures. They do an awesome job with kind of the underpinnings of our economy. So yes, I'm hopeful and bright. Do I think we're going to go through overnight cataclysmic change in our industry? I probably don't. But I'm excited about kind of all the change that we will go through. And as a technology provider, I certainly hope and look forward to Reynolds playing a big part of that change in the future.
Our guest today is at the center of one of the most important conversations in automotive retail: how technology, data, and artificial intelligence are reshaping the way dealers operate. Kasi Edwards, Executive Vice President of Strategy and Corporate Development at Reynolds and Reynolds, has been leading efforts to unify dealership systems, simplify the spaghetti mess of technology, and create real efficiency through what Reynolds calls Spark AI, a single data layer designed to make every tool smarter and every process more seamless. In this episode, Kasi explains why sales productivity has remained flat, how technician efficiency can improve with AI and robotics, and why being a steward of technology is just as critical as creating it. We'll also discuss Reynolds' M&A growth strategy, opportunities in fixed ops, and specialty automotive, and the importance of supporting dealers, not only with software, but with people, training, and performance management. This is a conversation about innovation, efficiency, and the future of retail, and why the dealer's role remains as vital as ever. It's Full Throttle with Kasi Edwards.
Hi, I'm Kasi Edwards, and this is Presidio's podcast, Full Throttle.
Anytime I get a chance to spend time with Kasi Edwards is a great day. It's a great day today. We're usually on stage somewhere, but here we are on the podcast. Welcome into the program, your first time with me here.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for being on the show. And I mentioned the stage time. May 7th in Dallas, you were an important part of our U.S. automotive retail conference, which was extremely well attended, and you were part of the retail panel. And we talked a lot about bringing along maybe dealers and technology coming together hand in hand. And I want to go back to something that you said from that appearance, which is Google knows everything about you. They know that you are one Vols fan. They know that you use a Chrome browser, you use Waze, you're a subscriber to YouTube TV. And you said, but how do we get auto retail to begin to attack data like that? Because we have so much data, but it's all really difficult to do the data play without a unified customer data platform. Tell our audience a little bit about what you meant by that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I really appreciate the shout out for the one Vols fan, since we're coming up on college football. So
that's right.
That's right. So, and I'm glad you brought that example, Jason, because I think it's a really simple and easy one that we can all relate to, right? This whole AI world is I think, for most in automotive retail, myself included, can just be overwhelming and intimidating. But what we're doing from a Reynolds perspective and kind of how we're viewing the world is we've termed and we've come out with this term called Spark AI that we're using to describe our unified AI data layer. And what that means is that basically all tools leveraging a single data layer. And let me give you a couple examples as to why that's really important, right? So think about salespeople as an example, right? How many cars are most salespeople selling a month? Pick your poison. It's usually somewhere around 9 or 10, but I think most industry analysts will agree it has remained flat for a very, very, very long time, right? Year after year after year. So continually, no matter all this technology and all this great stuff we're throwing at people, somehow we're not improving efficiencies very well. On the service side, kind of same story. You think about technician productivity as an example, right? The amount of time a technician might spend turning a wrench is obviously what most dealers are going to care about and want to focus on maximizing. So, and you track that and trend that over time, and it continues to decline. 87% to 85 to it just is kind of slowly lowering, which from a tech perspective kind of makes sense given, what we're asking technicians to do with photos and videos and the like. So again, using those two examples and throwing AI at solving some of that or maybe improving some of the route efficiencies in the dealership, that's really challenging to do when there's multiple systems, multiple tools, lots of components, lots of software duplication. And to this point, right, when you have all that and you have all these multiple systems and fragmented and things are disconnected, you're using humans to kind of overcompensate or compensate for that. It might just be slow or inefficient, or I have to rekey, but I can control the outcome. It just might be inefficient. I think the challenge now is, okay, enter AI. Now AI is using those systems to make decisions and trigger the next activity and automate a bunch of these functions, right? So all those factors that I just spoke of, the fragmented, disconnected, lots of multiple systems, that becomes a lot scarier and quite frankly a little bit more dangerous when AI has to take direction from that system. So kind of fundamentally our core approach has been this unified data layer, and we're spending a whole bunch of time and energy and money focusing on this single source system built with that in mind. And that continues to kind of be our core mission, this idea of building it as one to work as one. And we've been working on that for some amount of time, and AI is just kind of the next layer that makes that really, really important in our process and kind of our philosophy.
Well, and Dallas in May, you described it also. You said, most retailers have enormous technology, but it's hard to make sense of what you call the spaghetti mass.
Yeah.
And, a general manager comes over from another store and
Yep.
they have their own systems that they want to work on. Someone else comes in, maybe there's another vendor that wants to plug in.
Right.
Making the data actionable, synthesizing it, making sense of it, and then applying it to auto retail is the biggest challenge, right?
For sure, for sure. And that kind of goes back to this idea of, as we're talking about it in the marketplace, Spark AI or a unified data layer, it is going to be mission critical no matter kind of what you're using and how you're using it, that the data is, clean, and as it is going to then intend the next step in the process. There's never been a bigger importance on making sure that what is the data that you're using to kind of trigger that next action or activity and learning from. So yeah, interesting times.
Yeah, you talk about learning to utilize and become stewards of the technology. What do you mean by stewards of the technology?
From what perspective are you talking about back in Dallas, Jason?
Yes, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's, I think that really when we talk about being stewards of the technology, it's like it's our job, I think, as a provider to make sure that as we sell technology, right, that we are stewards of the dealership and of the tech to ensure that they're utilizing it effectively, right?
Right.
We can build all the technology in the world. At the end of the day, you're still talking about, for the most part, a retail environment. And retailers are still going to be faced with things like all the pressures that we continue to watch, right? Consumer expectations and high turnover in their store and regulatory and compliance and manufacturing, you name it, right? All
Yep.
these incoming pressures, I believe, and I think our leadership team at Reynolds believes, it's our job to help be a steward of the tech, meaning, okay, we can give you the technology. That's part of it. You're going to have that information, but how do you effectively utilize it? And how do you effectively make the most of what you've bought? So again, a whole bunch of initiatives from a company perspective that we've got going on, that we've had going on, and that we've kind of doubled down. Performance managers, as one example, comes to mind, right? So we've invested in a whole new business unit. We've always had lots of salespeople and service people and support people, but as a company, we've really doubled down on the focus of utilization and being out in the field in the store. And dealerships, they demand it. They love it. They respect it. And so we've got a whole business unit focused on performance management, really, and making sure that there's utilization, high return on investment for all the products and services that we sell.
In terms of inorganic growth at a high level, what are some of the biggest opportunities that really would move the needle for Reynolds? What are you looking at?
Oh, from our so you're making me put my corporate M&A hat on in
Right.
this discussion as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So
What are areas that are appealing? I mean,
yeah,
you're always, I know you're always looking for the next frontier
certainly.
and pushing the the organization farther and faster. So
Yep.
where are you pushing them toward?
Yeah, we so that's my primary role at this point in my career at Reynolds is focusing on on M&A and on
Yep.
business development and growth. We continue to be, to your point, very acquisitive and finding things that make our business better, right? And some of those, as I call them, swim lanes that excite us. We had a acquisition last year, Jason, with TSD. I think
Yep.
most people in the industry are familiar with that brand name. They're kind of the leader in loaner and fleet software, do a heck of a job. So that was last August. So we continue to look down that path. There's a lot of opportunity for efficiency gains. There's some really cool technology out there. So we got some projects in the works there. We actually just announced one last week, a company out of Canada that helped us improve our Canadian presence with
Some
some of that
Montreal company.
technology. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's one. We continue to look for ways within kind of the retail sector and our retail management system, kind of our core system. And again, there's tons of wonderful ideas and creative ideas out there. Fixed ops continues to be a great area where dealers are focused and where we're focused. Never a shortage of opportunity in the front end as well, relative to data and leveraging and accessing and actioning on data. So there is a litany of opportunities kind of across the dealership landscape, some ancillary pieces as well. Reynolds has, a number of companies that serve specialty automotive as well. So RV, marine, and power sports. So we've got some interest there. So yeah, there's plenty on the list. We're trying to be really selective and kind of hyper focused on those things that help make our dealers and our retailers, more profitable and help make them more efficient in their business every day.
And speaking of efficiency, you've talked before about robotics
Yeah,
and how that area can really be a tech enabler for retail. And that solves the age-old challenges, right? The problems of
right.
retail, which is parts delivery
Yep,
and what you cited earlier, technician productivity and turning things around
that's right.
quickly. There are a lot of opportunities there, aren't there, Casey? And just in terms
Yeah,
of making dealership operations more efficient, maybe in ways that
no
we haven't
doubt.
even considered before.
No doubt. And I think you're right, Jason. I think robotics it's super interesting, right? And I'm by no means a robotics expert, but one of the things as I've learned and watched and worked with our product team, we started with a product and we unveiled it at NADA, a parts delivery robot meant to do just that. Keep the tech in the bay, turning wrenches. That is where you're maximizing money and you want to minimize footsteps, right? Back and forth to the parts counter. So some dealer early kind of adopters of this technology. It's been extremely cool and fun to watch their success with it. And we're learning, right? We'll kind of get better and figure out this whole robotics game, but we definitely have kind of that early adoption. How can we really push the envelope and be highly innovative in those areas where we can pick up efficiencies? This was the logical and the first place to start.
Some have said through the years that this is a redefining age in automotive retail. Maybe in automotive generally, and that technology that we see now is going to reshape dealership operations and the customer experience in ways that we can't even imagine. Do you subscribe to the same theory? Is that what's going to happen? And if so, how much is it all going to change?
Mhm. Um, I would say yes to an extent. Do I think that we're going to go through overnight, you know, massive looming change? I don't, and perhaps that seems a little short-sighted, but I've watched this industry for close to 30 years now, very closely, and it takes time. And I think we have to remember we're rooted in a retail environment, right? And there's a lot of things that are kind of hooked to a retail experience. Do I think we have an incredibly bright future with incredible opportunity leveraging technology? Of course. I think there's great ways to leverage AI. There's great ways to leverage technology. Again, I go back to, I think, and how a dealership in a retail environment does that is going to be really interesting. Can you do it in a way that truly is efficient? And can you do it in a way that really does leverage, technology to help you make better decisions and be more efficient and more profitable? But all the pressures, all the headwinds that we continue to face, I don't think any of those are going away. I think dealers are wildly adaptable creatures. They do an awesome job with kind of the underpinnings of our economy. So yes, I'm hopeful and bright. Do I think we're going to go through overnight cataclysmic change in our industry? I probably don't. But I'm excited about kind of all the change that we will go through. And as a technology provider, I certainly hope and look forward to Reynolds playing a big part of that change in the future.
Well, and you've said before, the daily life of a dealer, that dealer world is very different than the software world.
Yep, absolutely. Sometimes it's good, I used to be out in the field a lot, and now I'm in more of a corporate job, and it's good to get out and remember what we're dealing with and what the customers have to handle and what they're trying to accomplish every day. It keeps us rooted in the business challenges that we're really trying to help them solve every day.
I know you're continually making connections with dealers around the country, you and Chris and the entire team.
Yeah.
What are you hearing? Oftentimes you get the pulse ahead of everybody else. What are you hearing today? We know some of the challenges. We know the stabilization that's occurred in terms of profitability. We've talked about it, written about it. But what are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's good positive sentiment, as I think there always usually is in auto retail. Dealers remain, I think the core challenges that they remain focused on that I kind of articulated a little bit earlier remain challenges. A consumer's expectations today, what they were many years ago, it shifts very, very rapidly. So meeting those expectations, the core issues of hiring and retaining, OEM pressure, supply chain and logistics, the adoption and utilization of technology, right? Increasing regulatory and compliance, although that might be backing off. I think all those headwinds and those pressures still remain true. But dealers have a way and an optimistic way to fight through those things and, do a heck of a job in selling and servicing, their product. So I think we continue to kind of hear those. We continue to hear things like, your people matter. All the technology in the world is wonderful, but the people who help us teach us and support us and train us and coach us and educate us, that's a really critical part of our industry still. And sometimes I think we get so excited in the technology that we forget a little bit about how important servicing of clients are, and that continues to bubble up, quite frankly, in a lot of dealers' conversations, especially with Chris and Dave and some of our industry folks, that people and how we treat and what we're doing and how we're doing in the trenches, that's a really important part of just doing business in this environment right now.
One final thing that needs to be mentioned, the amazing Roger Penske called out Reynolds and Reynolds and you specifically multiple times during our May 7th event.
Yeah,
that had to be pretty special given who he is and what he's done.
Yeah, nothing better than unsolicited or unrequested praise. But yeah, we work really hard as a company on accounts like Penske and Hendrick and some of the larger organizations. And those are challenging businesses, and we put a lot of energy, a lot of people put a lot of work. So it makes me really proud from a Reynolds perspective when you do hear positive accolades, because there's a lot of folks getting up every day working really hard to not only win that business, but keep and earn that business every single day. So yeah, we were thrilled to hear good, positive things. It certainly is certainly something we appreciated.
Well, thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for being a part of this as well. And great to be with you as always, and look forward to the next time.
Sounds great. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you. That's the 53rd episode of Full Throttle. A special thanks to my guest, Kasi Edwards of Reynolds and Reynolds. Thanks for listening. For a library of these episodes with industry leaders, go to thepresidiogroup.com, and you can also find a library of the shows on the Presidio Group's YouTube channel. I'm your host, Jason Stein. We'll talk to you again next time.